Welcome everyone, Victus here, reseller for ProfitTrailer and PT Feeder. Please see the links at the bottom of the video if you're interested in buying either one of these products. Disclaimer, I'm not a trading professional, so don't rely on my input, it's all opinion. Hey everyone, before we get started, I wanted to say something. I've gotten a few comments from folks who started to look at the first 2-3 videos in this series and have commented on some of my settings, and I did not go through and create exact settings for you guys to download. So while you can see my settings that I'm using, it is not something that I intended for you to copy exactly. I'm giving you a philosophy and not just a file to download and start to run. So if you see a setting, like I had EMA gain and all buy value at minus 0.47, which is minus 0.47%, and someone was right to point out, hey, that may not be a great place to be buying. And you know, that may be very well true. And I commented back to that user that I'm really not an expert on the EMA gain and EMA spread and EMA cross, or the SMA versions of those settings. I need to learn more about them myself, so I appreciated his or her questioning of that comment. But same thing for you. I'm giving you a philosophy to follow and a way to be safe and conservative and to set up your bot. You know, there are many other things that we can talk about and try and do with these settings that I'm not going over. And again, I'm not giving you exact settings to download. So please just keep that in mind as you listen to this. And if you have comments or improvements or suggestions, love to have them, and always appreciate the comments. And that is all I know about that. All right, we've been talking about the philosophy of trading, and we've gone through several videos now. We talked about the different types of trading that can be done, from bad trading to micro trading, mid-tier trading, and long trading. We talked about my actual philosophy, which is a sort of a midterm trading philosophy. And we've talked about picking 15 to 20 great coins, doing the research on those, setting your variables responsibly, so that your settings responsibly, so that you don't buy crap or you don't buy them at the wrong time, and using 40% of your balance for trading, 50% for DCA, and 10% for a remainder, and then keeping 10% for remainder. And then we started talking about the pairs file and how to set the actual variables. We went through those, and now we are down to the DCA file, and we're about to go through that. So let's get in. First, let's look at the sales log. I want to show you that. You see that over the last week, probably only had 10 trades, and we just got through, this is mid-February of 2018, so we just got through that big bubble that we went through with Bitcoin going up to 16,000 and back down to 6 and working its way back up to about 9 now. So there's not been very many trades, but when it was trading, you know, there were 3 or 4 trades every few hours. You'd have 10, 15 a day maybe when things are sideways or going up. And you see 2%, 3%, 1, 2, 2, 2, 3, 4. There's an anomaly at 10, 1, 1, 2, 4. And you see the dollar equivalent of those of 14, 2, 23, 28. So, you know, they're not big trades. They're not big dollar amounts. They're 2, 3, 4%. And you'll see over here on the actual bought and sold, you know, 0.06 it's not a small trade. It's not a 0.006, it's a 0.06. So, you know, I'm trading a little bit larger amounts here, you know, a couple hundred, $300, $400 at a time. So again, these aren't huge gains on that. So you have to set your settings carefully so that you don't get a lot of bags. All right, so let's go down here in the DCA file and continue our discussion. So in the DCA, and again, we're in Binance, I've got my max cost set at 0.08 so that when we are buying coins, we don't go over that amount. And in looking at my trades just a second ago, in the sales log, I could see that a lot of my buys are around 0.07 already, so that's only going to let me DCA one time. So if you were me and you wanted this to be able to buy 2 or 3 times in DCA, you would have to raise this number quite a bit. You'd have to double it to 0.16 to buy twice and double it to 0.32 to buy 3 times. So if I was not comfortable using that much, and I'm really not, I would need to knock down my percentage that I was using to buy with here, which I actually have done just before this video. I've lowered my percentage here. I was trading a little bit higher. All right. The other limiter here is the max cost, and I'm sorry, the other limiter here is not the max cost. I said that is max buy time. So that's your second buy limiter here is buy times. If your max cost is 0, which you can set, which means buy as many times as you can, or you set it up at a higher amount and it goes up and keeps buying, this will stop it at 5. If you look down here, I'm using Anderson settings and I've got 6 triggers defined. So if I set this to 0 and set that to 0, it would keep buying until it reached this limit, which was 6. So there's sort of 3 ways to do that. The min buy balance I've got set at 0, and my min buy balance percentage I've got set at 5, which is kind of a conservative number. I like to keep 5 or 10% of balance in here for emergencies, or just not to have everything spent all the time. I suggest you do the same. As I mentioned, we're using Anderson strategy here, which has multiple triggers. Uses a double down setting, which means every time it buys the amount of the coin that you already have in there. Not the Bitcoin amount, but the same volume of coin that you already own each time. So each time it's going to double it and it goes up fast. I like to keep these settings tight. You see I'm starting at 2 and I'm going up to 4.5. I see people with these spread out really wide, and I don't like that. I think it waits too long before it tries to double down and keep this percentage low. I keep a trailing buy set at 0.19, lower for faster buying. I keep sell only mode set to true, so that if sell only mode does come on, like it is here, then it will keep trying to double down if it finds itself in an appropriate position to do so, so that when sell only mode comes out, maybe those coins are coming out of their loss position and they're ready to sell. Again, we're trying to get out of DCA as fast as we can. Available volume set at 150%, so we want enough in the order book to allow us to buy safely without getting a partial purchase. It's another one of those safety valve settings that you should keep in this range. And the max buy spread here at this, just like in pairs, we want to keep our buy spread pretty small so that the bid and the ask prices are close together and we don't have a coin that's just dumping. We want to wait before until the dumping is done before we buy it. All right, so now let's talk about selling. And since we're already in DCA, we'll talk about it here and then we'll go back to pairs. But in selling, it's a simple sell strategy that's a gain that I use. You can also use high BB. With a gain sell strategy, I keep the sell value, which is the only thing that works here. Sell trigger does not work with gain. I keep sell value between 0.6 and 1%. That is because we are in DCA. We want to get out quickly. We don't want to linger in here with a whole bunch of value tied up in this same coin that's already losing money, or going down in value. Isn't losing money, but it could be if you sold it right. So we want to set that low and get out fast. Trailing profit, it's actually 0.25. I like to keep it at 0.15 or under 0.2 when I'm using a lower percentage here. So if my percentage is higher, I set the trailing profit higher, like we'll see in pairs in just a minute. Stop loss, I do have it set to 0. I will say to consider a stop loss here. It doesn't really do you any good to have a coin sitting at a 70% loss. Figure out a value that if it's beyond that you're willing to let it go and set it and let it do it. Don't wait and then go in when you said 20 in your mind, I'll sell it when it gets to 20, and then it's at 25. Well, next time you look and you're like, oh crap, I'm not going to sell it. And you don't, because it's an emotional sell. Let the bot do its work. Set it at 20 or 25 or 15 and let it sell it. Yeah, it sucks when it happens, but it gets you out and puts your capital back to work. So that's my warning there. All right, let's go back to pairs and talk about selling in pairs. All right, again, I like a simple gain strategy, but here you'll notice that my all sell value is 3.25%. I believe that when you've got a coin that hasn't gone down in value and is going up, then you can get higher percent profits in that, and I like to set it higher. All min profit with a gain is not used if you're using high BB or I can't remember right offhand if there are other sell strategies. I think those are the main two. You can use an all min profit so that once it hits the value around the BB setting for all sell value, then you can tell it, but wait to sell before you have, until you have this amount of profit. All right, all trailing, again, I set this a little higher when this is higher at about 10%, so that I can try to trail a little bit more and grab a little bit more profit. The backside of that is it can go down in a bigger chunk as well, and then it will sell. So sometimes you don't get up to this value, but it's worth the risk. And I'll say again, consider using a stop loss trigger. But there was at one time a bug in here that if you set a stop loss trigger and you're doing DCA in pairs, then it would trigger the sell in DCA at a stop loss early. And I may be getting that wrong. I have to look back at the documentation, but big bags suck. They don't do anything but hold your value and make you sad. So consider using a stop loss trigger where you can. All right, speaking of triggers, we have some here and you need to use them. When you've got conservative settings, or you're trying to be conservative and you've got some aggressive settings, you need to make use of the triggers. So in Binance, the only ones that you should not use are the all consecutive buy and sell. They do not work here. So don't set them. You'll see an error if you set them. And you'll see in the wiki there's a common errors page, and you can look that up. Look the error names up, and this one comes up a lot that we see. Just remember in Binance you can't use these two. But the all Bitcoin price drop trigger, when Bitcoin goes down, alts usually follow. Bitcoin is the US dollar of crypto world. The US dollar is the currency that's used worldwide for trading, and other countries don't like that, but it is what it is. It's true here, and until it's not true, you should make use of these triggers to help keep you safe. When Bitcoin drops more than 5%, altcoins are soon to follow. So setting this here, somewhere in this range, 5 to 10% will put you into sell-only mode and protect you from buying anymore when this is going down fast. You can set a fairly soft recovery so that it turns sell-only mode off, but I would recommend using them. All right, the next trigger is a price rise trigger. Now why, if Bitcoin is going up, would altcoins go down? Well, if it's going up and it's going up big, then people are selling off their altcoins to buy Bitcoin and follow it up. We saw this a lot before Christmas, that Bitcoin would take off and the altcoins would just crash again, which was so frustrating because when it went down, they crashed, and now when it's going up, it crashes. Why won't it, when will the altcoins go up? And what we found was the only time altcoins went up was when Bitcoin was stable and it was going sideways. So I would recommend a price rise trigger to turn you into sell-only mode as well. And again, you can play with this in the 3 to 5% range so that when it comes back down a little bit, the altcoins, people will stop selling off the altcoins. One other thing to make mention of, if you don't know how to do this, if sell-only mode is true, this flag will be set red here and you'll see it. And you can hold and hover here and it will tell you why. So in my case, this was turned on by the price rise trigger. I had it set lower, and I think it was at 5% or something before I did the video, and so it was already on. I've not reset the bot to turn it off. As soon as if I stopped and restarted the bot, this would go back into false and I would begin trading again. All right, so we talked about the DCA settings. We talked about the triggers. That is the end of my philosophy discussion. And let me rehash it really quickly for you. Pick great pairs. Trade only those pairs. Use 40% of your balance for trading and 50% to DCA, and keep 10% for safety. Use DCA, but only after a 1 or 2% loss, and then get out of DCA quickly. You don't want to hang there. You don't want all your balance tied up in that. You got to get out with a low % profit margin. Make a 2 or 3% profit per trade on normal trades. Like I said, when you're good and it's going up, set that percentage higher. Don't get crazy with it. 4 or 5%. It's going to be hard to hit those all the time. You'll get lucky sometimes, but you can certainly play with it. But when you're in DCA, set it low. 0.6 is your floor. Below that, your fees kind of eat up your profit margin, so don't set it below that. In selling, I use low BB. I'm sorry, this is in buying. In buying, use low BB or EMA gain. I like low BB. I've been using EMA gain with my friend Nafi's settings, and I've learned how to use it. You want to watch the bot closely, though, when you're using these settings. If you're being aggressive, if the market's going up and you're being very loose with your buy values, you got to watch the bot closely. The other thing you can do is you can use PT Feeder to manage those settings if you're being aggressive. So when the market changes, it will change your settings for you. Set your other variables to keep you out of trouble. Set your spread, set your volume, set your max trading pairs, and set your triggers. All those things will help you when the market goes bad and you're trying not to end up with a bunch of coins at a loss. Okay, tried to keep it concise today. Kept it under 20 minutes, which is hard for me. Thanks for your time and attention. If you like what you heard over these last 4 videos, please give me a like or a thumbs up or a comment or something to encourage me to do more. If you didn't like it, tell me what I can do to improve on it. If you have suggestions for more videos, please let me know what you'd like to see. Also, tell other people about what I'm doing. It's very difficult to get YouTube views out here without some kind of heavy advertising or already having an audience. So anything you can do to help other people learn about my videos and what I'm doing is very much appreciated. All right, you guys, stay frosty.